Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number 15, and today fucking sucks. And I know I'm not supposed to swear in like the first minute or something. I really don't give a flying fuck. So I think I've talked about this so many times. I'm going to talk about it again. My brain hates me, and it likes to punish me every so often. For the last, I don't know, 2-ish weeks, I have effectively been dealing with the symptoms of food poisoning. Now, the reason I say this is the symptoms is because I have not gotten food poisoned, but I have the thing called conversion disorder, and what it means is basically I can have physiological symptoms, like actual real symptoms that are caused by psychological problems, namely my panic disorder. So when I have panic attacks, when they get real bad, my brain goes, well, obviously making you feel like you're about to die is not working. So I'm going to up the ante and I'm going to give you physical symptoms. The first one of these that, I mean, technically this here is a conversion disorder. It's it's what's called a psychogenic tremor, which basically means there's two different psycho things. There's psychosomatic, and then there's psychogenic. Psychosomatic is literally you are making yourself sick. A psychosomatic illness is something like someone that has an extreme aversion to like throwing up or nausea will fixate so much on, oh my god, I can't get sick, I can't throw up, that they will basically make themselves sick. That's what psychosomatic is you're doing it to yourself. Psychogenic means it doesn't have a physical cause. Like this is not a nerve disorder or something like that. I'm not sending the wrong signals. I don't have nerve damage or anything like that. But it is a tremor. It is a complete tremor. I have no control over it. It just happens, and it's connected to my anxiety. The worse my anxiety, the worse the tremor. And it moves randomly. Like sometimes my hand will be fine, but it'll be my leg that's shaking, or my other arm. So it's not something like with a psychosomatic illness, you can kind of talk yourself through it and get rid of it. For psychogenic, we don't actually know what the trigger is. We just know that the trigger is psychological, not physical. And because we don't know what the trigger is, we can't actually fix it. It just happens. So the first big psychogenic symptom that I got was when they were starting to wean me off benzos the first time. Didn't work. I started having seizures. And the first one that I had lasted like 2.5 or 3 hours. After, I think it was like 20 minutes. Because I was like seizing for 20 minutes. But I was still conscious. Which is the thing that makes it different from like an epileptic seizure. My particular seizures are called psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, and the only reason I can remember that phrase is because the acronym is PNES, and it looks like penis. It's the only reason I can remember it. So the first one that I was aware of, again, it lasted like 2.5 or 3 hours, and after it couldn't have been 20 minutes because I would have been unable to call anyone by then. It was lasting much longer than it should have been, and so I called 911 and I said, something's wrong, I can't stop shaking. And the paramedics got there. I was able to kind of crawl my way downstairs, and I just sat in a chair waiting for the paramedics because I was home alone at the time. The paramedics get there, and they're talking to me, and I'm mostly coherent, but I'm terrified because my entire body is violently convulsing. They said, do you think you can walk? And I kind of nod, and they kind of help me, and they put me in the ambulance, and I am drenched in sweat, like it is dripping off me in buckets. It was so bad that when they tried to put the monitors and stuff on me, they had to keep reapplying them every few seconds because I was so covered in sweat that they literally couldn't stick anything to me. They got a heart rate monitor on my finger where they do the pulse ox and the heart rate, and my heart rate was like over 200, it was like 220 or something like that, which is extremely dangerous. And it was probably why I was sweating bullets and everything like that. Like every muscle in my body was going crazy. Like I said, they brought me in. They asked me what drugs I had taken. They didn't believe me, like over and over and over again. I said, I don't take drugs. I can't. I don't like them. Didn't believe me at all. The city that I lived in has a huge drug problem. I don't 100% fault them for the fact that they just didn't believe it. But they wanted to know what drug I was on so they could put me on the right stuff to fix me. And yeah, it took like 2.5 or 3 hours to get over it. And then they made me do a P test, and I could still remember the doctor on call coming in and just looking at me like I had just killed her dog or something. Because she just looks at me and she goes, "So you're not on drugs?" I'm like, "Yeah, I told you guys that like 100 times." And she goes, "So what we're thinking is it was just a panic attack." I'm like, "That wasn't a panic attack. I have panic disorder. Know what panic attacks are. That wasn't a panic attack." And I went to a neurologist, and it took like 6 months to get a diagnosis of conversion disorder, but it finally did. And it took another like 6 months for them to actually put it on my chart because they were worried about other things at the time. So that was my first thing was these seizures, and I would have them a couple times a week, which remarkably painful. And the seizures themselves look and feel like any other seizure. The one thing that doesn't happen to me is I don't pee myself, because that's one of the things that can happen. I don't think it 100% always happens, but majority of the time you lose control of all your muscles, and includes the muscles that hold all that stuff in. So a lot of times you pee yourself. I generally tend to be mostly conscious during them, where epileptic seizures, you're out. Like, you won't remember them. Now, I don't remember a lot of what happens during the seizures because they are traumatic and remarkably painful. And I do know I've hit my head during the seizures and stuff like that. So I've hurt, and they hurt like hell. They're extremely painful. And generally after a seizure, I can't really do much of anything for anywhere from about half an hour to like hour and a half, 2 hours. So that was the first thing. And like I said, it used to happen a few times a week. It fucking sucked. Fast forward a few years, I'm starting to learn how to deal with the seizures. And the seizures are one of the big reasons why I have agoraphobia. I am terrified if I go outside, I'm going to have a seizure in a place where I can't get somewhere to protect my head is basically my fear. And so I'm going to have a seizure, in a store, and I'm going to collapse to the floor and then just repeatedly slam my head on concrete. So that is one of the biggest things that fuels my agoraphobia. Fast forward a few years, I've learned how to deal with the seizures. I'm still having them regularly, but I've noticed kind of the symptoms that happen generally like a few minutes before my tremor will start getting worse, or I'll start getting like tics and stuff in my shoulder and my neck. And I'll go, oh, I'm about to have a seizure. And I'll find someplace safe to have this as a seizure. There's nothing I can do to stop it, but I can at least kind of prep for it. So it's not quite as life-altering as it used to be. And a few years ago, I got actual food poisoning from eating some leftovers and not warming them up correctly. And food poisoning sucks. But interesting, the thing about food poisoning is it's remarkably fast. Generally, your first symptoms will show up anywhere between about like 8 to like 24 hours after you've eaten the thing, depending on what kind of food poisoning is. So a lot of people don't realize when you get food poisoning, it's generally not the last thing you ate. Generally, it's the meal before, because it takes time for your body to actually reject it. And then food poisoning is remarkably predictable. You get massively sick, you get a fever, you get diarrhea, vomiting, headaches. It's horrible. And it lasts somewhere between 24 to 48 hours, and then you're fine. Like, that's how food poisoning works. And it really, really sucks. But compared to what I get now, I would prefer food poisoning. Because generally, after that 24 to 48 hour period, you are perfectly fine. Unless you got something really, really bad like botulism or E. coli or something like that, you're just kind of regular run-of-the-mill food poisoning. You're really not going to be too bad off a few days later. After I got that, my brain mimics bad things that happen to me. When bad things happen, it remembers them so that it can punish me later. And so what ended up happening was, after I got that initial food poisoning, it lasted for a decent amount of time. So the initial food poisoning was about 48 hours. And then, just because of my normal anxiety and everything, I was a little bit hesitant for like another 2 or 3 days where I was eating very, very little. And that's normal for me. I've had food poisoning before. I don't know. I get food poisoning once every 6 or 7 years. It's remarkably rare, but it does happen. And normally it's not food that I cook. Normally I'm really good at that. But anyways, this is so... a week, or I think it was about 2 weeks afterwards, I'm just eating some chicken tenders that I've eaten a million times. They're from Culver's, I think is what it was. I've had these a million times. I like them. But I eat them and then I just start feeling really, really weird. And I don't think anything of it. I finish off the tenders, and within an hour, I am full on food poisoning again. And again, this one, it came really, really quick. Much too fast for real food poisoning. And so I didn't really understand. And then the symptoms lasted for a solid week. And that didn't make sense to me either. But I figured, I just had food poisoning. I just had it again. My body is just sick. This happened every week or two for 2 years. I lost over 100 pounds because I couldn't physically eat. I was getting roughly, depending on the day, I was getting between 400 to 800 calories a day, and that was it. I couldn't keep any food down, and the little bit of food that I didn't immediately throw back up went immediately through me. So it was a absolutely horrendous time. And that's what's been going on with me for a while now. Is this food poisoning thing. The past couple months, I have slowly been getting to the point where I'm eating more regularly, and I'm able to eat kind of almost normal amounts of food without getting massively sick. And you guys have probably seen I've gained a little bit of weight. I went from, at my lightest, I was down to around 225, 230. And now I'm at around 272, 273. So I've gained, 40 pounds, roughly? I've gained about 40 pounds just being able to keep food down. Well, as I mentioned, I don't know, a couple of videos ago, I got the food poisoning again. It was real bad. It lasted for 2 weeks. And I couldn't keep food down. I was eating mostly bread and water. It was not fun. And then I would have panic attacks at night, freaking out. Anytime I would try to get myself to eat something because my stomach's growling, I'm starting to get headaches from malnourishment. I would eat something, and then I would have these massive panic attacks about, what's going to happen next? Am I going to be stuck in the bathroom all night or whatever? So wake up this morning, and I'm not... for the past 2 weeks, every time I wake up, I've got a bad headache, and I'm extremely nauseated. So I basically have a hangover, and I haven't had a drink in a decade. I wake up this morning, and I'm not nauseated, and my head doesn't hurt. And that always worries me, because that means that my brain is coming up with something else to punish me with. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take advantage of this. You're going to see a theme here. I had a chicken tender because I had some available. So I had a single chicken tender, and I didn't get sick after eating it. And I had in order to keep my weight up, which I really don't need to at 270 pounds, but malnourishment's a real thing, folks. I have these Ensure shakes, which are basically the thing that they feed to old people when they can't eat. That's what I do. I have them in chocolate and strawberry. They're lovely. They have lots of vitamins and minerals, and most importantly, protein and calories. There's also a lot of sugar in them. But so I had that, and a single chicken tender does not a meal make. So I also had some Ensure so I could have some calories in me, and I was feeling as well as I could. I'd been having issues with my hip. I have a degenerative hip disorder, and I did something to it a couple days ago, and it hurts like hell. So it's having some hip problems, but that's not food poisoning. I'm fine with that. I can take painkillers, or I can just stay off my feet, and generally that'll get me through the day. So I had some stuff. My brother gets me like cases of water and stuff like that, so I can have water next to my computer. Because otherwise I don't drink water because my brain is messed up and I hate water. And now it's all that I drink. So they were upstairs. I decided to bring them downstairs. They'd been up there for like a few days, and I just hadn't taken the time to do it because I felt sick. I was feeling better. I bring them all downstairs. Another fun fact about my panic disorder. My panic disorder has trained itself that any time my pulse raises, I need to have a seizure because my life is in danger. It's the one thing that is stopping me from working out again, is because every time I work out, it turns into a full-fledged panic attack. And it's not like, oh man, after the 20-minute mark, I start panicking. No, it's like after the 2-minute mark, as soon as my pulse raises, I feel like I'm about to die. And because of convergent disorder, that also means I can have seizures or get food poisoning from working out. So I bring the stuff down. I am breathing extremely heavily because I'm unbelievably out of shape because I can't work out. And I don't go anywhere because I live in a basement and never leave it. So I go to lie down to kind of calm down and get through the panic attack. And I start feeling the seizure coming on. And my seizures have gotten a lot better. They don't last for 2.5 hours anymore. Generally, they last for about a minute and a half tops. Still extremely painful, and they still wipe me out for a couple hours. But that's what happened today. So I got to wake up to doing the bare minimum to keep myself alive by bringing the food and water down that I use every day, and then had a seizure right after recovering from 2 weeks of pretend food poisoning. And when I say food poisoning, I mean every single symptom. Vomiting, nausea, fever. Fun fact, panic attacks give you fevers. That was something I didn't realize. I'll have panic attacks in the middle of the night, and I will just wake up just covered in sweat. Or like I'll be trying to go to sleep, and I'll start having a panic attack, and I have to throw all of my covers and everything off because I feel like I'm melting. But yeah, literally every single symptom of food poisoning your brain can make up without too much difficulty, it seems to be. And so yeah, I had food poisoning for 2 weeks and then a seizure this morning, and I'm finally to the point where I can function. So yeah, that has been my day. It fucking sucks. And hopefully I will at least get a day or two where I'm not in abject pain. But who knows? So I will say, I mentioned before, I used to get seizures about 2 to 3 times a week. I don't anymore. They've gotten a little... Basically, my brain trades off seizures and food poisoning. So now my seizures are a little bit less frequent. Once a week, once every couple of weeks. But when I'm not having a seizure, I'm generally dealing with food poisoning. So it's still not great. But it's slightly better than it used to be. And it all depends on the time and stuff that's happening. When bad things are happening to me, like when we had to move, everything went out the window, and I was just horrible, having seizures, and like it was a remarkably unpleasant time, from what I can remember. Again, I also can't remember a whole lot, so it's possible there's more that I just don't remember. Who knows? Anyway, so that's what's going on today. Would love to have something interesting like yesterday's video that people are loving, but yeah, my brain hates me. So see you tomorrow.